UX class. Okay, yeah, for today, our instructor, Chile Dube. Yeah, Chile, did I pronounce it well? Yeah, Chile Dube. She's a UI
Yeah.
UX designer. Yeah, okay. She's a UI UX designer based in South Africa. She's a South African. Yeah, and she is also a graphic designer and also a digital designer and an assistant manager also. So she'll be taking us today on today's class. So, Ms. Chile Dube, please, you can just go on and reintroduce yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ella. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Cool.
Yes.
Cool. Um, so hi everyone, I'm Sihle Dube and I will be teaching today's lesson on project management. So just to give you a brief introduction and background on me, I'm a UX UI designer at DVT, the South African company, and also consulting for Discovery Health. My background is in fine arts and graphic design, and straight after graphic design, I did a little short course in UX, user experience design, and all of those courses had led me to be a visual merchandiser, and then after that, I was a digital designer, and previously I was a graphic designer, and then I just transferred into a UX UI designer currently. You guys could let me know if you have questions on the chat. I'm not sure if I'll be able to see the chat. You can just like shout if you have questions along the way. Cool. So in today's lesson, we will cover the following: an overview to understand what is project management and how it helps manage UX projects. We'll also look at working with project briefs and working with or within cross-functional teams. Then we will look at the different project management tools available for you, especially the ones which are most effective in the industry. We'll we'll go through the design sprints and also go through the design process and see how that alongside project management can help you work successfully in a team or as a UX/UI designer individually. And then lastly, we will look at a few examples and work on today's class activity. So before I start the lesson properly, I would just like to mention that I'll have sessions in between the lessons where I'll pose questions and also have Q&A sections where anyone can just ask anything, or if you didn't understand something, I can just reiterate further for you. And after the lesson, I will post a link to my PowerPoint presentation and also the activity that we're going to be doing. In today's lesson, obviously, as I mentioned before, it's project management. So I would like to pose a question to everyone. What is project management? You can just type out your answers or you can just give a shout. I need like one or two people. What is project management? What do you think project management is to you? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can. So,
Uh,
Chile, I think most of them they can't talk. So
oh,
apart from the instructors and administrators, so they will just type in the answer on the chat room. So, guys,
okay,
please,
cool.
if you know the answer to the question, please just type it. So, if you have an idea, so it can be interactive. Thank you.
I'll pose the question again. What is project management to you? Yeah, I see someone typing. Uh, good. Yeah, that's good. So, those tools. Yeah, I think both of you guys hit it on the nail. You were correct. I feel like good when you went and Googled that because I saw it somewhere. Let's just wait for the other person to finish typing. Yeah, correct. Everyone got it correct in different wording, but it all makes sense. Um, so, project management is the use of specific knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to deliver something of value to people. With that being said, I want us to be more specific today in today's lesson because it's all about UX. I want us to look at what is UX project management. The benefits in to include project management in your UX project is that it gives you control over user experience tasks. It improves overall user interaction with a given platform. It also involves conducting analysis like research within your users. It, it also involves design tasks and agile methodologies approach, which is very useful the team for a team orientated collaborators, which I'll explain a bit more further when we talk about cross functional teams. So how do we manage these UX projects within a team and individually? So you need to be able to identify and engage all the stakeholders, communicate more than you think. It's always better to over communicate than to just not communicate at all within your team. You need to also establish clear objectives and also understand the audience's needs. And audience's needs, I mean the users. You need to also focus on the user needs, not just functionality, but also how what the user feels and how they feel within the design or the project. And also, I'd like to add that the sooner the better you start uh, testing within your project, the better the project will be successfully at the end. So managing a UX project with other teammates, it's very important to understand the different dynamics involved, which is a great advantage of working with other people with a different perspective. So cross-functional teams are groups of people from various departments in an organization, such as marketing or product development or quality assurance or sales and even finance. So these people work together to achieve a common goal within the project. That's why it's always an advantage to understand what other teams are doing, especially if you're going to be working in a cross-functional team, because it's not so good to be working in isolation because you don't know what the other team expects from you and what kind of goals they expect until you get to the final stage and then everyone has miscommunication and you've wasted time in designs and working through the project. When cross-functional teams work together, they feel more connected, particularly across different departments. When team members feel connected, they have a common goal and trust one another. So they all better at problem solving and conflict resolution. So imagine if you were working in a cross-functional team and nobody got along, there was no communication within the departments. How are you as a UI designer going to be able to solve problems effectively if that is if the teams don't get along. So it's something that you have to think about, especially when you start working as a UX UI designer. Um, yeah. So any questions with what I've presented so far before I go into depth with the presentation? Cool. Nobody has questions. Great. Thank you, Goodwill. So I would like us to talk about the brief. So we all know that you you have this project that you're managing within a team, or if it's you working individually, but there's a start before you even manage this brief, which is before you even manage this project, sorry, which is the brief. When managing a project, you need to get the project brief first. So, what is the project brief? If anyone can answer that for me, what is your understanding when someone says, "Here is a project brief," or when someone asks you, "Do you have a project brief for this project?" What is your understanding? Yeah, that's good. Description of what the project entails. Yeah. An overview of what the project entails from problem to possible solutions. Yeah, that's also correct. Just waiting for that last person's typing. Detailed explanation what they expected to be done on the project. Yeah, that's also correct. Is there anyone else who would like to give it a shot? Cool. No one. Let's move on. So, a product brief is a key component of a product creation process. It serves as a plan that identifies the product's goals, the product's specifications, and all the other important product information, like let's say the interface, how the stakeholders want the interface to look like, or if they have inspiration of how the interface would look like. That's something that will be included on the product brief. So, therefore, the brief represents a product roadmap to which everyone involved in the product development process refers to when working in a new product. So I'll make an example with the clients that I'm consulting for right now. Um, I'm in a team where we have a business analyst and we have three UX designers, and then we have the developers. So the business analyst will get a brief from the stakeholders, and then they'll bring it to us and tell us, okay, so business wants us to build a website that involves one, two, three. And in this product brief, they will state every single thing that we need to know to be able to build the website. So the developers can code it accordingly. So, what happens when a brief is not as detailed? And that is something that us UX designers need to look out for. Is when a brief is not detailed, always try to have a follow up meeting after getting the brief. So, you get the brief, and then you go with your team, discuss the brief, and with any questions or any misunderstanding or anything that wasn't communicated when you got the brief, you take it back to the person that gave you the brief, and you have a follow-up meeting and discuss those things further. So because there's one thing I can tell everyone is not all the time you get proper full briefs, and it's your responsibility to actually go back and get full information so you can build the product or the design accurately. As you can see from this slide, the purpose of a brief is to provide an overview of the project, and it's mainly written for the project board. So the project board is the people receiving the brief, your developers, your UX designers, and sometimes BAs. Um, so it is used to provide a full and firm foundation of initiating a project, and is and sometimes it is also created in a startup of a project process by a project manager. So, like I mentioned before, a project manager can be involved or a business analyst. So all this depends on what kind of team or what kind of company you're in, because different companies have different team members. Some team members don't even have business analysts. You just work from stakeholders to UX designers and back and forth. So let's look at an example of a UX brief. In this brief, you can clearly see the requirements for the different entities. They also included some design principles to help with the interface of the design, and also, and most importantly, they clearly stated the vision of the project. One thing that needs to be understood when receiving a project brief is you need to understand the vision, and the vision also requires you to understand the goals and what needs to be achieved as an end goal, what needs to be used by the user, what needs to be achieved as in terms of a product or a service that you're designing for. And in most cases, and I won't lie to you guys, in most cases, when you get a project brief, I don't know what other countries do it, but in South Africa, in South Africa, sorry, you will get a verbal brief and it's not normally written down, and that's where you need to always have follow-up meetings so you don't design the wrong thing. And I know designing the wrong thing might be a waste of time, especially because as designers you need to go through the design process. So imagine you busy testing out this design or this product, and you haven't followed the brief accurately because you didn't get the correct information. So that's the waste of business time and business money. Any questions so far before I move on? Cool, no questions. Are you guys concentrating or you just don't have questions? Just asking.
Okay, guys, if you have question, please just type it on the group. If you have any question at all from all what our instructor have been saying since the beginning of this class, please type in your questions in the chat room.
So someone typing, so let's just wait for them. Okay, that's good. Cool. Thanks. Let's move forward. So let's talk about the tools you need to manage a UX project. So we've spoken about what UX project management is. We've spoken about receiving a brief, sorry, and we've spoken about cross-functional teams. So you have your brief here, you have your team ready, and you're ready to work within this project. So, what kind of tools do you need, or what kind of tools are effective when working within UX projects? So, tools that will, so we're going to be talking about tools that will equip you to working well with other teams, especially because I mentioned earlier that as a UX designer, you will be working with cross-functional teams. So how do you do that without having to work on your own? How do these tools help us work effectively? They help us with effortless project planning, a balanced resource management, and improve team collaboration. So I'll showcase the examples just now. So I just want us to understand that there are certain tools out there that it's paid for and some are free. So within whatever company you go to or whatever project you have, you will have to use a project management tool, no doubt. Um, so so most of these tools also it's quite nice and it's also an advantage that they work within real-time project management. I mean, by this, I mean, for example, let's look at Figma. Figma allows you to be able to see someone else working on the same screen as you, and you can able to post comments on there. And that is a very good tool to use as within working in a team. So just an example of some of the tools out there. This is not the only tools. There's probably thousands and thousands, but I just picked these ones that I've seen a lot of teams work with. I'm pretty sure some of you know Trello and Jira and probably Slack. Um, but there's like 100,000 tools out there, and like I said previously, it depends per project that you're working on and what people prefer to be working on within that team. um, But like I said, obviously there's a lot more. Sometimes you don't necessarily use all of these at the same time. And it all depends on the structure of your team and what your organization prefers. I'll give you an example of my team where we don't even use Trello or Jira or Monday.com. We don't use any of these except for Slack and Figma. And reason being is it's just effective for our team because it's smaller. So, for example, if you're going to have a bigger team, it's quite possible that you might be using Trello or even Jira when you start collaborating with the developers. Um, yeah, because everyone in the team needs to be very fluid and honest about where they are with their work. And that's the only way to do that is to have a real time um, project management tool that shows you that someone has already moved this ticket, they're already working on this, so you don't do the same work, and then you don't lose communication because everything is in within one platform. You can see what everyone else is working on. Um, I would like us to look at the design thinking just briefly because I know you probably did this a lot more when you started the boot camp. So I'll just go through it briefly just to give you an understanding of how it links to the design sprints at the end, and especially with the activity that we're going to be going through later on. So the design process is an approach for breaking down a large project into a manageable chunks. So any designer, even architects or even engineers, scientists, and any other thinkers, they use the design process to solve a variety of problems. So this is the design process, which involves 5 stages, which are empathy, define, ideate, and taste. So one thing you should always take away from this is that design thinking is not a linear process. So most of the time when you are in a UX team, you will find that even after testing the design or the product, you still feel like you didn't achieve what needed to be achieved from your goals and objectives. So you might just end up going back to trying to define the problem to reveal new insights or even ideating again to spark new ideas. Let's look at how let's look at some of the activities you can do for each process, just so you know you don't have to do all of these. I know they look like, but I'll explain a bit more further. So, in deciding on which activity to do will depend on the goals and objectives you want to achieve, and also the kind of information you want to get from the research stage. Um, so, does anyone have any questions so far before I explain the slide? Cool, I'll take that as no questions. So, with the design thinking process, like I mentioned before, there's 5 steps, and obviously a linear process, and you can go back and forth. However, whenever you feel like you need to and you haven't reached certain goals and objectives, someone is typing. Is design process same as design thinking process? Yes, it is the same. It's just different wording. Yeah, cool. So under discover, which is the same as empathy, it's mostly about learning about your user. So at this stage, you'll do your user interviews. You also do like surveys or even work out who your competitors are. And sometimes you'll also go through customer journey maps. And these customer journey maps, it's probably and most of the time taken from if there's already an existing product or already existing design. So you're trying to figure out how people feel at each stage, or when they go up, do they actually achieve it, and are they happy, or do they finding like a few steps like obstacles? And for you as a UX designer, you need to find all those loopholes of what the user likes, dislikes, or struggles with. And this is a great stage for you to do all that research. And like I mentioned, you don't have to do everything in the discovery list. It just depends on your project. For example, working on a medical, we are redesigning a website for a medical aid company, and we didn't do a lot of these things. The only thing that we did was job to be done, understanding the current website, because it's a design. So you need to find out what the user wants to see when they land on that website. What's the user do they want to do on the website? So for this, like surveys and stakeholder interviews and even text mapping might wouldn't be a great idea to do. So just like I said, it all depends on what are you trying to achieve and what project. So the next one is define. So here you basically trying to find the problem. So now you've done research, you've seen what doesn't like or what they like, how they feel. So now it's to narrow down what the problem is. So mistake that a lot of UX designers do here on this stage, the define stage, is they will have problems that they want to done, and then they lose focus on what exactly do they need to act. So this stage is on how to tackle it, especially choosing kind of activities or exercises are you going to be doing in order to find the problem for you. And then the next one is ideating. I find this very fun. Sure, you guys have done a few things on ideate, and a lot of you externals always enjoy this part. It's where you will be brainstorming a lot of solutions. You've done research, you've found your problems. Now it's time to brainstorm solutions, and this can be used by creatives. I know I enjoy. It's a great way to, especially if you work in a team, to get everyone's input, everyone involved in the brainstorm section. And then also information architecture. This is also important under ideating, because sometimes you find that you find this website, but that the content on there does not make sense as for a user going on that website. So they're probably trying to find something that is so important to them, but you have designed it at the bottom of the page at step number 7 of like 7 clicks throughout the website. So information architecture is very, very important. Also with card sorting is for this for ideating. Card sorting is important if you're starting a website from scratch and you don't know what section belongs where. So it's always good to have a focus group and just put cards and titles on them and then ask them, where would you put this on the websites? And that's a great way to also understand your user and how they think and how they want to find things on the website itself. And then on the next section is prototyping. So this section is mostly to stimulate the user experience. You are stimulating and trying to see how the function will be on whatever product or design you are designing. So you use a lot of interactive prototypes, wireframes. I know I don't go straight to Figma or Sketch or any other design platform without drawing things down. I'll literally start from pen and paper, and there's nothing wrong with that, because studies show that you think more and think more successfully when you're drawing something on pen and paper before you actually do it digitally. So, and then the last step will be testing. And then the testing, the sooner, like I mentioned before, the sooner you start testing, the better. You can even start testing your idea after ideating. You can even start testing your idea after you define the problem. I mean, the reason why this process is not linear is that it gives you an opportunity to not do a full on process and to get to the end and find out that it doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even meet the goal or the objective of the brief. Yeah. Any questions before I move forward? Cool. So let's move forward. Um, just want to briefly explain empathy and all the others, because it will help in our activity that we're going to be doing a bit later. So, empathy is a general sense. Empathy is our ability to see the world through other people's eyes as designers, to see what they see, feel what they feel, and experience things as they do. And we do this by putting aside our own preconceived ideas and choosing to understand the ideas, thoughts, and needs of other people. Empathy helps us with it helps us gain a deeper appreciation and understanding of people's emotions and physical needs and the way they see, understand the interaction with the world around them. So it also helps us as designers to understand how all of this has an impact on their lives, generally, specifically within the context being investigated, which in this case, the design or the product that you are working on. With define, which is the second stage in a typical design thinking process, it involves collating data from observation from the observation stage, which is the empathy stage, the research stage, and to define. So this observation stage is to define the design problems and challenges, like I mentioned before. So by using methods for synthesis, raw data into a meaningful, sorry, so, by using methods to collect raw data into meaningful and usable body of knowledge, such as I'll give you an example that we saw. Wait, sorry, an example that we saw here: empathy mapping should be one. Oh, didn't. So you can even use user stories, user journeys, the empathy mapping on there. So to be able to create um, actionable design problem statements, sometimes we use points of views that inspire the generation of ideas to solve. Um, I'm not sure if you guys went through point of views or how might we questions. Can someone give me an answer on that?
Yeah, I think you should come again with the question. I don't think they got it clearly. And guys, if you have
Oh,
questions, if you have an answer to that, please just type it. Can you come again, please, with the
cool,
question?
no problem. I wanted to know if have you guys done how might we questions before I explain it? Okay, someone's typing. Okay, cool, perfect. So I can just not boldly, but briefly talk through it. So these empathy mapping is to be able to create any actionable design problem statements or point of views that inspire the generation of ideas to be solved. The how might we questions open up to ideation sessions, which you explore ideas that can help you solve your design challenge in an innovative way. So with this design phase, there's a lot of what, why, when, where, how questions that you need to point out and get answers from. So the third one is ideation. And ideation is often the most exciting stage, like I mentioned before, most exciting stage in a design thinking project because almost unrestrained free thinking can occur within the given field. In the ideation stage, the aim is to generate a large number of ideas that potentially inspire newer, better ideas, which the team can then filter and narrow down into the best and most practical or even the most innovative ones. So there are many great methods that can help the design team during the ideation session. And I did mention these when we were looking at the process with the activity examples that you can do. So the fourth stage is prototyping. Not sure why it's not showing. I just quickly check something. Uh, Sorry. Okay, I don't know why it's not showing, but you can just look at this here. So with the the prototype, important design that precedes the development of original design layout. It is also intended not only to show the structure, the featured site, also the site map. The different elements, its its main pages or even pages that link from different pages. So when you prototype, it's very important to um, make sure that your wireframes are very detailed so the other person can also understand them, especially when you will be testing them out. So because you want very solid and great feedback from the person you're going to be using to test out your prototype, it's better to make sure that it is very detailed. Cool. So the last one is test, and testing is the fifth stage in the five design thinking process. Testing is often undertaken concurrently with prototyping and is performed well if you provide a learning process in it. So most times designers will find that they have these solutions, they've done prototypes for them, but then when it comes to testing, they too focused on their own abilities of designing. They forget about the user, and it's quite important to leave room for disappointment when you test, because not everyone is gonna like what you designed. Not everyone is gonna understand or get the journey, the user journey that you have implemented. When conducting tests, you should also pay attention to the prototype, how the user uses the prototype. And to give you an example, I've done a few testing sessions with users where you allow the users to sit down and watch over them on how they go through the website, for example, and you ask them questions like, are you finding a certain element? How are you feeling when you're going through the screen? And it's always an advantage when you just watch what they do, because you can also see their faces, how they react when they do certain things on a particular design or a particular product. So, just to help you plan a test, there are a number of guidelines you can follow. So, with number one, you can let your users compare alternatives. So, here an example is you can produce two prototypes and ask them how they feel about using the one prototype compared to the other and why. And number two is show, don't tell. So most of the time, what people get it wrong is they want to tell the user what to do on the product type, and with that, you are not really getting feedback because you're directly telling them where to go, what to praise. The feedback that you want to get is honest feedback, and especially how they feel, and especially the functionality of the product type. So it's always good to like show them instead of telling them what to do during the test. And then, like I mentioned before, it's always good to ask users to talk through their experience while they use the product. And number four is always observe and um, do a lot of follow up questions. So if you see a user while a test is what you're doing a test, for example, on a website, and you can see that they're struggling to find something, ask them what are they looking for and why are they struggling to find that, because you learn at a later stage that they're struggling because maybe the information architecture is not what it seems. They don't understand the content strategy on the product that you have designed. Cool. Does anyone have questions before we move on? Cool. I don't think anyone has questions, which is fine. So we're gonna be hopping on to our next section about design sprints. This is particularly my favorite section within my job because it's, like I said, UX project management. You need to have some structure, or else everything is going to be a mess, and there won't be any communication, and nobody will understand anything that is being built. Cool. Does anyone know what a design sprint is? Or has anyone tried to work in a design sprint or heard of a design sprint? Any answers will be great. Someone typing. Okay, so what is a design sprint? So we're just waiting for some typing. You're typing so long, you're gonna give me a whole paragraph. Design sprints is a time-bound process that contains 5 stages. Perfect. Typing again. Okay. 5 days events. Don't worry, Goodwill. We'll teach you what design sprint is today. Cool. So let me move forward. A design sprint is like what you guys mentioned on the chat. A design sprint is a 5-day process for answering critical business questions through design and through prototyping and testing ideas with customers. So the whole process is highly interactive and experimental and also user focused. When I say it's user focused, the reason why it's 5 days is because it needs to be planned out accurately. You need to know what the goals are. You need to know what the objectives are in terms of making sure that they made after the design sprint is finished. So this slide should give you a quick overview of what goes down on each day. So on day one, you'll be making out solutions and trying to define the challenge and mapping out or even sketching what are you trying to solve. And then on day two, you are deciding on how the prototype will work. So deciding on how the prototype will work comes from the previous day where you have defined what the challenge is. And then on day three, you start prototyping and then you start building the design, which it can get a bit chaotic when trying to design something in a limited time frame. But if you've done the mapping out, defining of the challenge, or even deciding on the solution, prototyping shouldn't be that much of a hassle, especially because most of the time as UX designers, you're not going to be working alone, but you'll be working in teams. So ideating should be a quick exercise throughout the day. And then on day four, you are spending time testing out your prototype and also using the feedback to make your prototype better. What I've found is um, what I've done before is on day 3, while you're designing and prototyping, it's always good to also try and appoint people to use for the next day so they can test it out instead of trying to appoint people on that same day where you are testing out, because you might be losing a lot of valuable time. Uh, any questions from your side? Any questions about anything that I've mentioned, or if you want me to go through certain things or break down or re-explain? Or someone is typing. To be honest, it is not always 5 days. I know I've worked in design sprints that last a whole month, and the longest design sprints I've worked in was 2 months. But the trick is, it's always better to make the design sprints shorter. So maybe every 2 weeks have a design sprint, and then at the end of each second week you review the work before you start another design sprint. I think the whole concept of having a 5-day design sprint is mostly for smaller teams, and also if you have a product that doesn't necessarily need a lot of factors. Um, yeah, I think it all depends on the team that you're in and the product that you're building. So, because I know with for example, a lot of products that I've been in, the design sprints have always taken forever. Yeah, but obviously each day is critical and it has an objective. Yeah. Another question is, at what stage do you start the design sprint? You can start the design sprints at any given moment once you get the brief. I believe the sooner you start the sprints, the better, because you might spend a lot of time trying to do research, trying to do everything else. Whereas if you did a design sprint, it will give you the goals or what you need to achieve a bit more faster, because the days are narrowed down compared to when you're trying to do research for 3 weeks and then you find out that actually I haven't defined the problem properly. I haven't prototyped something effectively. So I think this the sooner you get a brief and you've checked the brief with maybe your business analyst or even your stakeholder, and they've given you a go ahead, like, yes, this is what we mean. Start your design sprint, start delegating tasks to different people, because with design sprints, obviously, sometimes it'll involve developers and it'll involve business analysts, or even like us, the UX designers. So, yeah, I hope I answered your question properly. Is a design sprint for a new or ongoing project? It's for both. So, in terms of new projects, it might be a bit shorter because you're still starting off. And then for ongoing projects, like I said previously, I've been in design sprints that took like 2 months. It's just that you always break it up in like 2 weeks or 1 week checkup. So let's say you have a design sprint that takes 2 months. So every second week or every end of the week, you have a group check in with everyone and see if everyone is meeting their goals accordingly. Because remember, now you're working in cross functional teams and you're not just working alone. So you need to always communicate and check if everyone is meeting the necessary goals. Hope I answered your question correctly. Anyone else with questions? And also, just to add, design sprints can also be added in one of the tools we spoke about, because some tools they require, or actually they are equipped to plan out design sprints. I know with Teams is usually what I usually work on is Teams calendar, and it's much easier for us to plan our design sprints on there. So if you have a larger team that involves developers as well, Trello is always a good tool to use, because the developers can always mention or attach certain concerns about the design sprints that everyone can see, and everyone can work on that together instead of working in isolation. Any other questions? Cool. Let me move on. So I'm gonna be posting a link to our activity. Okay. Ella, should I post it on this chat, right?
Yeah, you can.
Okay,
Please.
cool.
Guys, if you have a contribution or questions, please just type in the group. Like, you can ask questions, contribute. Chile, yeah, you can post in the group. Thank you.
So posted it on the group. We know if everyone can access. You won't be able to edit, just view.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, guys, if you are with your laptops, if you are with your phone, I don't know if you can do that with your phone, but if you are with your laptop, just click on the link Chile just dropped on the group, so you could view the file. Yeah, you could view the design. Very.
Cool. Let me know if you guys if I can start. Just say yes or no. Cool. Okay, so with this, so now that you have you have so now that you have the basic knowledge and understanding of what the design sprints are and what the design process is in relation to um, project management, I would like for everyone to try out this exercise, but for now I'll go through it and you can try it out on your own time, especially for your other class activities, because I find that with this design sprint activity is quite helpful even when you're not a student and actually in the real world. I still also go back and try out every single stage when I've hit a brick wall with ideas. Yeah. So I'll I'll be going through a step-by-step design sprint, and you can use this, like I said, in your own projects once you start designing. Have you guys had a design sprint exercise yet? Just yes or no? Just want to see how broad I need to explain it. Anyone? Yes, no. Have you guys done design sprint exercise? No. Cool. Thank you. So design sprint, like we mentioned, it'll take about 5 days. That's the general design sprint. Forget about the 2 months or 2 weeks. We're gonna be focusing on the 5 day design sprint, where you get the challenge, and at the end you have learned. You've defined the problem. You've decided how you're gonna solution for the problem, and um, it's frozen. Okay, wait. Let me redo this. Okay, let me close this. Uh, Play. Sorry. Thank you for letting me know. Is it fine now? Can you guys? What do you guys see? So I just know that I'm on the right screen.
Okay, I think it's showing from my end. But guys, if you can't see the screen or if it's frozen, just type yes or no so we can know. Thank you. If you can't see the screen, type yes, you can see it, or no, you can't see it. Just type it on the chat.
Okay, cool. What? No, you can. No, you can see it.
Okay, yeah. So every other person on this call, please just drop a yes or no if you can see it, so we can know if it's just an issue from like a general issue or something. If you can see it, please just answer. Thank you.
Screen is frozen. It's weird. Maybe I should just work from. Can you guys see my Figma file? So can you guys see me changing it? It's just it's frozen close for cursor. Oh, okay, cool. So can I move? Can I carry on? I don't think it should be a problem if it's frozen because everyone is on the file, right? Just waiting for those people that are typing. Okay, cool. Thank you. So like I mentioned before, we'll be focusing on the 5 day design sprint, and let's see where it starts. So when you use when you need to understand when to use a design sprint. I think someone asked a question previously, so here are your answers. So use a design sprint before the product is created, or when you develop new features, or when you're trying to bring alignment within your designs. So I'm gonna start explaining step by step on the design sprint, and it'll be useful if you guys also use this when you do if you have a final project for the boot camp or any other project or any other design. So how do we set up a design sprint? So I'm pretty sure most of you work remotely, so this might not work out properly, but um, there's always tools where you are able to work online, like Figma. You can always um, appoint sticky notes on the Figma file, and you can see people typing out their ideas and solutions, so everyone can be able to collaborate. Yeah, because now Figma has a new feature where you can also call in and discuss through over the Figma platform. So you'll have your platform where you're going to be writing all your ideas or deciding factors, and then you're going to have your team. So within the team, sometimes you might have a designer, a facilitator, and a facilitator can be anyone. It doesn't necessarily have to be a stakeholder or a business analyst. It can just be anyone, even UX designer that facilitates design. And then with the designer, sometimes you don't necessarily have to include a designer, but with large groups, you need a designer to make sure that everyone has a common ground. And then obviously you need your 5 days, Monday to Friday. Or if you work through weekends, sometimes you start on Wednesday and then ended up on Tuesday. It's like 5 days. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily have to be Monday to Friday exactly. And then so with day one, like I mentioned before, you try to understand the challenge and to build the map. So I'll use an example of, let's say you got a brief, and the brief is there's we'll call it Auntie Jackie. So Auntie Jackie has a company. She sells cakes and um, is that a question? Sorry, is it accessible? I'm not understanding your question. More unique. Is it accessible? Is that a question? Is the file accessible or okay? Let me move forward. So we have an example here. We have Aunt Jackie that sells oat bakes cakes. So now she wants to design a website or an app where she can be able to showcase all the cakes she sells and for people to come to her shop. So here, day one, you understand the challenge and build the map. So what is the challenge? The challenge here is and Jackie needs a website where she can showcase her cakes and to bring people to drive people to drive the audience to the shop. You guys need to stop me when you feel like you understand something. So yeah, we mentioned before, you try for day one, you're trying to seek alignment. So when you work with a team, the developers have their own understanding on what needs to be developed on the website for and Jackie's bakery websites. And also you as a UX designer, you also have your own perspective. And also with the business analyst, they will be mostly advising you what the business wants. So in this case, what Aunt Jackie wants for her business. So as a UX designer or as a developer, you don't try to build something that has no correlation with Aunt Jackie's goals. And then what you can do to align, to make sure everything is aligned after you get your brief is to make sure you understand what the product is. In this case, the product is Aunt Jackie's bakery. Who uses the product? In this case, people with kids who want birthday parties, to order cakes, or people that have anniversaries, they want to order cakes, people that want to buy cakes from her shop too. And another point is, what is the problem the product is trying to solve? So what Aunt Jackie's problem here is she wants more customers to come to her shop, and she wants to showcase her precious, good looking, good tasting cakes on her website. So you need to understand, what is this website trying to solve for Aunt Jackie. So with number two, long-term goals. Long-term goals is, if there are no problems at all, what would the product look like in 2 years? That's something you need to think of as a UX designer. Is you're not building a website for just now and it'll be used for now. You need to be able to think long term, and how the functionality will last over time, or maybe so many features over time, or just one or two features already added on. The moment you feel like the design is only for just a few years, even 6 months at this, and you're not gonna go back. That's when you need to go back and try to do more research and try to define what exactly is this product doing. And then you also need to be able to look at the risk, and try to reach those goals. What could make you fail in designing a website for Aunt Jackie? Um, for example, what could make you fail is you probably are not her target market. So now you need to go out and find people that are her target markets, and do more research and try to engage with the target markets, try to find out what will form the trust between Jackie's clients and her business. And then this is where the how might we questions come in. Um, so you turn the answers in the how might we questions, like I said previously, how can we make sure that Aunt Jackie and her audience create a solid relationship and trust. So you need to try and find solutions on how much you help them resolve that, and how might you improve the engagement between Aunt Jackie's shop and her website and showcasing her case. Are you supposed to follow the screen or the Figma file? The Figma file is for you to have afterwards, and you can follow the screen for now. I don't mind. Let's just see. I'm not sure if it's just you. I've been moving my slides. Can you guys see the how about we list with the sticky notes? Should I just use the Figma file? Yes, the Figma file.
Yes, we can. Guys, if you can't, please answer in the group, just type it if you can see it or not. Thank you.
So what I mentioned before with the how might we list is basically you and your team, you'll be able to pose the question of how can we fix certain things? How might we as designers, for for example, make sure that we create trust within the audience and unjack his business. So this will be the chance where everyone in the team or everyone in that design sprint sit down and jot down ideas on how to solve a certain problem, how the problem that has been defined. And at the end of each section, you will be able to vote, and voting can be anyhow. You can just say this idea works, or like what I usually do is I would have little red dots or blue dots. So each person will get like a red dot or a blue dot, and that will determine this idea is good, this idea has a lot of concerns, this idea is bad. So voting will always the voting process will always depend on the team, how you want to vote. Yeah, and then with mapping out the user story after you've mentioned or worked on the how much we list, you can start plotting the user story. This mapping mostly for designs that already exist, and this works well for that. For products that don't exist yet, it's quite difficult to start pointing out or mapping out journeys at this point, but it's always good to at least try and put ideas down and try to create a journey, even though it does not exist at this very point. So with the actor is the person using the product or the person using the design, and how they discover products, what they learn, and like what are they going to be using on the product. For example, if they have to create an account, that's only just an example, and you get a point where you also need to mission what is the end goal, and for you to use a user journey, it's also an advantage to just see a whole layout on what is the process that's going to be built as a design. And then like adding the how might be onto your user journey, also advantage. Sorry, this is an advantage because you can clearly see which part of the journey you need to focus on, which part of the journey needs a lot of solutions to be created. Then once that's done, you can always point it out and be like, okay, hey team, we have decided that we're going to be working on this. This is what we're going to be defining. So that is day one done. You built the map and you've set a target for the sprint. Targets, I mean, you know exactly what you're going to be building and on which journey does it occur. Cool, let's move on. So now you're on day two of your sprints, and day two involves sketching the solutions. So before you do the whole sketching, just remember that um, it's always good to look or to find inspiration from what other people do. In this case, if it was a bakery website for Anjaki, I'll be looking for other bakery websites that already exist. It's always great to build on existing ideas because it gives you room to better something that already is out there for a user. So with why is everyone in the team needs to put an idea. So if the people that don't want to put their ideas, then well, it's me in that team. I'm kidding. It's always good to have perspective, so different ideas. Even if people feel like their ideas aren't good enough, you find that people that feel like their ideas aren't good enough are the people that have the greatest ideas. So just try as a team member, always try to motivate people to collaborate and include ideas in your work. So how can you sketch? So like I mentioned before, I'm a pen and paper person. I don't go straight to digital and try to sketch on Figma. Like that's gonna take me forever. I need to see it, how it's gonna look on paper first. And Crazy Eight, I don't know how many of you know Crazy Eight, but I did mention it before. Crazy Eight is a very great way to start sketching ideas. So what you can do is have up your time into 8 minutes. So each minute, which is 1 minute, you can spend it on drawing down one idea. So after 8 minutes, everyone will have 8 ideas each and 8 ideas to contribute to the team. And then, like I mentioned before you go and test it out or even do the prototype, it's always better to recruit your testing customers or recruit customers beforehand and not on the day of your test, because that's going to be wasting time. And then after that, day two is done. So what do you have after on day two? You've sketched out your solutions by using Creating Aids, and you've recruited people to test on. Let's go to day three. So with day three, this is the day where you decide on which path to take. So you have you have your ideas that you were working on the previous day. So now you have to decide on where to take it on next steps. So, like I mentioned before, everyone needs to have deciding in the group. Everyone needs to be able to voice out opinions on why a certain idea is not going to be working and why certain ideas won't be able to be worked with. So, yeah, ideas with the most votes are the ideas that will be worked on the prototype. And like I said before, on the screen, sorry, our work stuff. Yeah. So all these ideas that were voted on here will transform into um, prototypes. And from that prototypes, they will be voted on and used here as a foundation for prototype. So so you've picked the best solution, and now you need to try and wireframe it. And with wireframing, you don't necessarily have to put colors and be so strict on that. It's always good to just start it off with black and white, line and squares and circles, whatever that makes sense to you for your design. Just make sure it's black and white with no colors, because I always tell people in my team that once you start putting colors and all the other complicated functional things on low fidelity wireframes, you don't get to understand the full function of the idea that you're trying to propose to the team, because now you are blinded by the interface and all the other things that necessarily are not important at this stage. And then, so after that, day three is done. So day three, you had to decide on the solution, vote it out, prepare prototype, and sketch it out. So that is done. And then with day four, you're on Tuesday now. So this is a day where you start building your prototype. So it is just a prototype, like I mentioned, like plain and simple, no interface elements that are necessary. Just make sure it's functional, because remember, you still need to test it out. So it's make sure everything that you need feedback on from the person you're testing it out on is there on the prototype, and how it will work on the prototype. Um, I don't know what you guys use, but mostly on Figma. I found that a lot of teams use Figma nowadays, especially because you can have calls there now. You can see who's working on what. You can have ads, and I strongly recommend Figma over anything else. Yeah. And then on day 4, so your prototype is done. You've sketched it out on Figma or even Sketch, or even, I don't know if people are still doing wireframes on Illustrator. I know other people still do that, but I strongly recommend when you do anything related to UX, stay away from any Adobe tools, because that's mostly for like graphic design stuff. Yeah. So on day 5, your last day on your sprint. So this is when you testing out your prototype that you've designed. And then just a little key factor here is try to appoint customers or users to test out at least 5 and more. But I know with larger companies, larger projects or larger designs, it's always like a lot of people. For example, we once tested for a medical aid journey, and it took us about 3 months, and we tested over like 300 people. So it all depends on like how big or how small your project is, and that will determine if you really need like a large group or not. And then just a little point, why 5 people testing, just 5 users will turn up 85% of the problems in an interface. So at least 5 people, that's perfect. And then, so I think I mentioned this on my presentation, like how can you test out your prototype. So I'll give you a few examples. You can give the prototype to the user, and you can watch them go through or press or click through the prototype and just watch them. And if you see certain reactions, just try and ask them, like, how do you feel right now? Are you finding what you're looking for? And another example is if you have a group of people that you're testing, try to just look at the kind of patterns they have to each other. Like when I say patterns, I mean if more than 3 people, if you are testing 5 people, for example, and if more than 3 people are finding it difficult to find a certain thing, then that's a pattern on its own, and it should be a concern for you. So you've validated your prototype, you've gotten the feedback that you need, and day 5 is done. So the benefits of having a very short design sprint, especially if it's at a beginning of a new product. So it doesn't really have a lot of users, not a lot of people know it, not a lot of people are familiar with it, or even if the stakeholders aren't really sold on how are we going to be building it. So like the 5-day design sprints will save a lot of time and money for the company. And then it also serves as a fast way to validate your ideas, because you're not going to be spending a whole year trying to like discover or trying to design things that users probably won't even like. And then also with the limited time frame of a 5-day sprint also forces the team to focus a lot more compared to when you have a sprint that will last like 2 months. Because I know for one, for example, I get bored easily, and like some of my projects, I'll get bored in a design sprint. I'm like, oh, this is taking forever. And yeah, so it won't allow me to focus if it's longer. So yes, so that's it. Any questions on this design sprint activity? I'm just waiting for people to finish typing. What type of effect will design sprint have on empathy stage? Let me think about it. I haven't really done it on empathy stage. Actually, no, I'm lying. I think for one, it pushes you to research a lot more. But obviously, if you want to add design sprints on the empathy, the stages will change a bit slightly. You won't be prototyping a lot more, and um, you you will be you just won't be prototyping a lot more, but you will be ideating and trying to define the problem. So I think I've never personally done design sprints while empathizing with the user. Only after I've just defined a problem, then I've started design sprints. Because sometimes, especially if you're going to be working in a big design project, it's quite difficult to start prototyping or even ideating if you haven't really defined the problem, because you don't know what it is. For example, um, there's one project where they wanted us to design what do you call a grad program website. So we did a lot of research and we tried to implement a design sprint, but it wasn't working because we couldn't define the problem. And once on day 5, we were like, actually, let's not do a design sprint. Let's just try and define the problem. So we spent a whole week trying to define the problem, and that actually helped us a lot more because, like I said, it is because of the project large scale instead of small one. Hope I answered your question. Any other questions?
Okay, Chile. I don't know. I think your line is breaking. Yeah, guys, if you can hear, actually, please just drop a comment on the group because I think it's breaking from my end. But guys, if you can hear, actually, please just signify yes or no. Thank you.
Please. You guys hear me now? Cool. Any other questions? No questions. Cool. Are you guys still thinking about questions? You can ask me anything, even with um, design sprints, exercise, or even the project management presentation, anything that's on your mind.
Okay, I think maybe Sheila, you can just ask them question like from beginning, so they'll just be dropping it on um on the chat. I think maybe they don't have questions, but you just ask them like from the beginning, they could drop it.
I'm sorry, when you say asking from the beginning, I mean from my presentation.
Yeah, like maybe like an overview. Because
Okay,
yeah, thank you.
we'll do that. Do you guys use Figma or any other tool? Just asking for where do you guys design? Figma. Cool. Okay, cool. So with project management, um, have you guys started with any UX projects, and are you working individually or with teams, and how's that going? That's full time typing. And if anyone wants me to go through a section and they don't understand, or maybe give some advice with some of the projects that I've done. What is the most challenging aspect of your work? Phew, yeah. The most challenging one is working in a team because there's a lot of personalities, and as a UX designer, you cannot work on your own. Like you need to reflect and you need to also discuss ideas. The more you talk through your ideas with someone, the better they become and the better work you produce at the end. Yeah, I think for me, it's just working with a lot of personalities. Sometimes you find that you have five UX designers in one team, you have a BA, and you have like half developers, and you need to talk to every single one of them and communicate and create a relationship that so you can work well with them. Um, as the design sprints progress have to be documented. Yeah, definitely. In every progress, you need to put it down on paper. I found that talking over something and not jotting down notes or have any archives, you'll forget what the team decided on, and and then there's a lot of miscommunication, and you really want to avoid a lot of miscommunication. So have everything documented at all times. Is using different shades of gray in wireframing a bad idea? Definitely not. I use a lot of shades. I think it also depends on the kind of person you are. For me, the reason why I use a lot of shades is to differentiate what will be an image, what will be the main copy, what will be a sub copy, what will be a body copy, and what will be like the icons, the different elements. So I don't think it's a bad idea, and I don't have anything against it. It's a matter of how you work, and is the people you work with also understanding the type of um, shades you're using. So yeah, because sometimes I found that some people just want to use black and white, and that's what they understand, and it works for them. yeah, so it just depends on you. And is it different shade? Oh, okay, cool. Thank you. That was the question. Any other questions? You guys get the link for the presentation. It's showing on your side. I saw someone typing and then they stopped. Question: do you guys think the design sprint activity will be useful for you to use in future? Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I don't have any other questions unless if um some of you have something else to mention. What's your social media handle? How can I reach you? Let me put a link. I'll give you guys a link to my LinkedIn profile, and you can DM me at any time. Yeah, really do not mind. Just try and find it now. I can just hop it on the link. Question: is everyone here like a beginner or um what's this? Are you guys gonna be looking for internships next year or like looking to be junior UX designers? So, so I've just posted a link to my profile for LinkedIn. Make So if you guys follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see and or even try to look for DVT on LinkedIn. They usually have a lot of internships and they always hiring people. I feel like almost every month they're hiring more than 10 people. So yeah, and it's an international company too. So that's good. And when I say international, we have to move to Joburg. We have people working in the UK, Kenya, sure, a lot of places, Amsterdam. So yeah, it's always good to just apply and see where it takes you. No, it's not locked. You should be able to see it. DVT. Let me type it. Yeah, DVT. So just type DVT on LinkedIn, and then it should show you. So can you guys view the profile link I sent? I think someone said it's locked. Should be locked. Last statement. I forgot what I said. I said something about um looking out for DT. They usually have a lot of um grad opportunities or junior opportunities as UX designers and even developers, because it's developing and UX agency across the board. So it doesn't really, you don't need to relocate. Um, we have people that are in India, for example, that are developing for us. So yeah, just give it a try and see what happens. Cool. Any last questions? Cool. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, Sheila, I think we're already coming to the end of the class, so
Yeah.
we could just like wrap up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. I don't have anything to wrap up. Yeah. I'm good on my side. As long as everyone has got an opportunity to ask me anything, but also on LinkedIn, you guys can DM me if you have any questions or help with portfolios. I also do portfolio reviews with a lot of juniors and grads. Yeah, that's it from my side.
Okay, so guys, you can just type on the chat room, give a shout out to Chile. Thank you so much for the class. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so we're ending now. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much, Chile.
Hi, everyone.
Guys, give a
Thank
shout out
you.
to your teacher on the chat room. Like, she did a lot for you guys today. Thank you.